Welcome back to another episode of Caps Off by the Game Day. We're finally back in the office. Fantasy Week 12 recaps episode. It's here. Felipe, I have you even closer to me on my right because on my left, we have none other than the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, the king himself, Scott Engel. Hey, welcome back, King.
Always good to be back with you guys.
Bro,
Yeah.
Scott has every type of Seahawks hat, man. I swear. Like, what are those
That's
types?
a Seahawks hat.
What are those types of hats called?
I don't know. I just noticed like a
They're like
Peaky Blinder
driver
hat.
caps, you know.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
drive with it?
The fact that the Seahawks, I didn't know like the Seahawks had a hat like that. So
They make
shout out-
every NFL team in these. Like,
Wait.
it's like a new era.
It's actually a Seahawks hat?
Yeah, look at the back.
Oh my
Oh, you
god.
thought I was kidding? Yeah.
I thought you were
Yeah.
fucking around.
No,
It's like a Peaky Blinders hat.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Wow.
they make them in all the teams too.
Wow.
I might have to get. We might have to get one. You get a Dolphins
There's,
one. I get a Cowboys
there's
one.
a new one that's like gray checkered that I gotta rock. To.
Oh,
Oh,
now
wait,
you're
wait,
bringing it
great
back to like
checkered
the
Seahawks?
50s.
All teams.
Ooh, we should get the checkered one by far. We should definitely get the checkered one.
Let's show up to
Scott,
the
we were-
podcast.
The Weir's got to send them to me.
Scott, we were talking. Wait, before we go into it, Scott, how much Seahawks merch do you have? If you had to quantify
Oh
it?
my god.
I'd say about 15 jerseys.
What?
Maybe about 40 hats.
What?
40?
Yeah,
Is your whole wardrobe Seahawks?
it's not counting like the stuff in my office. You know, like
Carry the one.
like the Super Bowl 48, framed photo of when they won it, other
well, that's not merch.
other items. It's a collectible.
So it's at
you know.
least 1,000.
Yeah, I have about 6 jackets. We could go on.
Would you trade it all for a date with Tyler Lockett?
a good
What with
question.
Tyler Lockett?
A
A
date.
A
You mean
date?
like a dinner with Tyler
Yeah,
Lockett?
A
dinner
dinner
with
and maybe
dinner.
like you see how things progress after the dinner.
Exactly. You don't want to
Um,
move too fast, but
I've met Tyler Lockett. He's really cool. I don't have to give up any of my merchandise.
okay.
So,
What about Pete Carroll?
what,
A date with
dinner
Pete
dinner
Carroll.
Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
I'd love to spend some time with Pete Carroll. That'd be awesome.
So would you trade any of your 15 jerseys, potentially all of them, for a dinner date with Pete Carroll?
For a dinner, like interview
Scott,
with Pete
you're
Carroll?
overcomplicating it. Do you want to be dined by Pete Carroll?
Wine and dine, even though you don't
I've met
drink.
Pete Carroll. What I want to do is I want to have a dinner with Richard Sherman.
All
and interview
right.
him.
Hey, Rich, take him out to dinner.
He deserves
He
it.
doesn't eat as much.
Richard Sherman is my all-time favorite Seahawk. I love the guy as a player and a personality. Like I've done a lot of celebrity interviews. That's the one I've always wanted to do.
That's
Beautiful.
dope. We
I
got to
love
set that
it.
one up. We
Yeah.
got to set that
As a
one up.
reminder, we got Scotty the King, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer,
legend,
next to
bro.
Matthew
I want
Berry.
dinner with Sylvester Stallone, actually.
Yo, you
Yeah.
can just impersonate him the whole time.
Yeah, give me a little
Hey,
Sylvester.
no, I'll take the linguine. No.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, this is week 12 fantasy recaps episode. We got a few people in the comment section. We got Kyler Saunders, Kyler Murray, Toast, Adebayo, Twist. We got a lot of people in
Out of
here.
bio, Heat fan.
Yep, bam. Big fan. These are all fantasy fans of us too, specifically. We were talking off the pod. Do you have a proclamation to make? Do you need to apologize to us for anything? Anything.
I don't
Could
have
be
to
anything.
apologize, but I'll give
Do you
you.
want-
I'll give you credit for being right on Tony Pollard the last time we did the show.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to motivate a player by talking him down,
Yep.
and I was able to do that for Tony.
I
Pollard.
appreciate
That's
it.
true. Actually, I
He's
did
been really
talk,
good.
I talked to Tony this past week, and he said the only reason he started playing harder is because he heard what Scott said about him. So the last 2 games, really good performances, obviously.
Do you think either one of you
He's
guys could
making
talk to
people-
Javonte Williams?
He's making people miss again.
Yeah. No, he literally went from I think it was the last the worst running back out of 33 running backs or something like that in
I
terms of
wouldn't
making
say
people
that.
miss. Huh?
I wouldn't say that. Alexander Madison.
No. Statistically, shout out
Objectively.
upper hand fantasy. It was a stat like that. I don't know the exact stat. Something about making people miss, something like that. He was in the very bottom of all running backs that qualified, and now he's like 6th over the past 2 weeks. So
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, and again, going back to highlighting what we were talking about with Tony Pollard, it's everything how we describe our buy lows and sell highs. It's like a player is naturally right at, for example, Tony Pollard was what, like an RB3 based off of how he was performing. Naturally, he was going to bump that up. He was going to be an RB2. Right now, if this trend continues, he could easily be a low end RB1 and be someone that down the stretch, like he did last year, is a top 12 running back the rest of the way. RB2 over the last 2 weeks is Tony Pollard. 18
Yeah.
fantasy points, 22-point fantasy points, back-to-back weeks with a touchdown on the ground. Moving forward, do you expect this type of trend to continue with Tony Pollard, or do you expect the first 8 weeks to be the Tony
No, I
Pollard
don't
for the rest
see
of the
why
season?
we would go backwards. I think the one thing that you want to do in your fantasy leagues right now, though, as we approach the playoff stretches, make sure you're rostering all the top backups of your top
Mm.
NFL players, especially at running back, because Rico Dowdle is a really good backup.
Yeah, he is.
2 touchdowns from scrimmage in his last 2 games. If you have Tony Pollard, you have to have Rico Dowdle. But I'm playing in the NFFC right now, the National Fantasy Football Championships, high stakes. I'm handcuffing Ed Oliver to TJ Hawkinson.
Oh,
Because after week 14, you can't make any transactions. So God forbid TJ Hawkinson got injured. I want to have his backup.
Who's his backup?
Ed Oliver.
Ed Oliver actually has a higher.
Ed
PFF.
Oliver, isn't he a fucking defensive tackle?
No.
Josh
Oliver. Josh Oliver. Actually, has a
Ed
better,
Oliver. Shout out Houston,
Hey,
Texas,
let's
baby.
go.
Josh Oliver's the Vikings tight end, right?
Correct.
Okay, I was gonna say Ed Oliver's.
He also has a better Josh Oliver has
Josh
a better
Oliver,
PFF
my
grade than
mistake.
TJ Hawkinson. Fun fact: Josh Oliver's in the top 5. A lot of people are asking questions right now, King. We have a lot of people on TikTok. Obviously, this week, I think for a majority of ESPN leagues that hasn't changed any of their deadlines. Tomorrow is actually the deadline for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
What is your number one suggestion going into the trade deadline that you would want to give to anyone? Now, granted, that's obviously dependent on what your team looks like. What is your number one suggestion or advice you would give to someone looking to make a trade ahead of the deadline?
Take your time and think the trade through. It's not just about, okay, I want to trade Kyler Murray. What can I get for him? You have to look at the rosters in your leagues and look for the best fit and then work off that roster. And also be realistic. If you can rip somebody off, go ahead and do it.
Woo!
But 2 times out of 3, you're not going to be able to. When you make a 3-for-1 offer, usually you're trying to stack quantity for quality.
That's
And
my favorite type of offer.
I'm not saying they never work, but they rarely work. When those get rejected, think realistically about what you have to give up to get something. Don't try to sell the other guy and say, well, you need this. I mean, you need a tight end, so take Chigaquanquo, so it's not going to work. It's not about, you can sell it, if you're experienced enough, but always think about if you can't get the rip-off done or the quantity for quality done, what is it realistically going to take, and be willing to give up something to get something. And another, you just ask for just one. Trade should do one of 2 things. They should either upgrade or fill a need. So somebody was asking me, should I trade Saquon Barkley for Breece Hall? Like 2 similar ranked players at the same position. You really don't help your team.
Yep.
So think your trades through. That's the best thing I can say.
Hey, good advice, King. Good advice, King.
Guys dropping bars on a Tuesday.
We got a lot of people asking questions. Keep asking fantasy questions. I know this was like a recaps episode. We're going to recap what happened.
You want to
in
go
week
quick
12.
hit, and there's nothing I love better than the answer fantasy.
Yeah,
questions.
everyone drop your
God.
questions. If it's a trade question, don't throw out the question of who should I target. Throw out a question if you've already made an offer or something. We'll try and comment. We'll ask
Throw
the
out
King.
any
We'll ask
question.
Felipe. All right, the King's asking for any question. Here's a question from Surdy on TikTok. Thoughts on Joe Mixon rest of season? What are you doing with Joe Mixon?
With an inexperienced quarterback, the offense is going to get bogged down. Joe Mixon is not somebody you're going to be able to rely on. And there's not any upside. And the problem is there's not much trade value either with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I think, can be a decent lower end running back fantasy 2 the rest of the way, but I don't see any upside for him with no Joe Burrow in the offense.
I agree. I mean, I think with some running backs, quarterback goes down, they're going to get more volume, and you actually kind of like that. But Joe Mixon isn't that type of runner. His efficiency isn't there necessarily, and we've always been kind of low on Joe when it comes to that. So I think it's worse for Joe Mixon. I don't love him rest of the season.
A big question going around both on TikTok and obviously by Adebayo on YouTube is asking about Cooper Kupp. I think a lot of people are somewhat panicked on Cooper Kupp, how he's been. I want everyone's take. What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp, and what are you doing with Cooper Kupp? We'll start with you, Felipe. We'll start with you, Felipe.
With Kupp, I mean, how did you? He didn't do this that well this past week. But how do you? What do you put up?
He had an ankle injury the previous week, and he got hurt again during the game this past week.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is if you rely on like what you've seen all year, you're not too excited about him, and you can probably if your trade deadline is still coming up, you can probably still sell the name value.
Yeah,
and so I would try to do that because I think up to this point. You've already said every week, okay, this is going to be the Cooper Kupp week. This is going to be the Cooper Kupp week, and where you haven't really gotten it. And so I would try to sell, but it's likely that a lot of your league mates are thinking the same thing that you're thinking. It's I don't really want any part in that.
You could do buy low for buy low, though. You could do
That's exactly
Cooper Kupp for Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Well, I think no matter what, here's how I would frame the Cooper Kupp, right? I don't think you can panic on Cooper Kupp. If you could sell Cooper Kupp and get back a running back or fill a need and you have depth elsewhere, I don't mind it. But I do think Cooper Kupp is someone where the upside is something that intrigues you week over week. I think there's going to be weeks where he's going to be the guy and Puka might be the guy. I think what fears me the most is that Kyren Williams obviously came back and had a massive day. He was the RB1 in week 12, 38.4 fantasy points, 200 plus total yards in his return. He's reasserted himself as the RB1. No one is scoring more in fantasy than Kyren Williams and CMC this year. So that's the concern with Cooper Kupp. But I would target Cooper Kupp as a potential buy low if you need a wide receiver and you want to swing for the fences. Again, It's not someone I'm saying, go get him. He is going to return on it. It's saying this guy can easily replicate 70% of what he once did, and that still would be a low-end wide receiver one. So that's kind of how
I'm not worried about Kyren Williams because they can't throw.
Not at all.
They can't run the ball all the time.
Yep.
It's a balanced offense. Matthew Stafford had 4 touchdown passes last week. He's looking good.
It's also positive game script for Kyren.
The one thing that my concern with Kupp is health. If you know he's healthy, he's going to produce. But it looks like he's going to be a risk in terms of durability. That's where I am at with Cooper Kupp. If he's out there, I'm lock him in. But is he going to be out there? I would want him on my fantasy team for the playoffs because I don't trust him health-wise.
Right. You don't want him on your fantasy team, you're saying, because you don't trust him. The risk is not worth the reward.
Right. With Justin Jefferson, it's one long-term injury. He comes back for it. I'm not worried. Cooper Kupp came back from a major injury, and I'm no injury expert. I'm not a Jesse Morse or somebody like that who's a great, fantasy doctor on Twitter. One of them that I follow. But these guys, sometimes when a guy is coming back from one injury, he gets hurt again because other parts of the body is going to compensate.
Yep.
And just, we've seen him come back from a major injury and already be injured twice. So I'm worried about the durability.
Charles on TikTok, he's been asking this question a lot, and I think we're all going to agree on this. He said he traded CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon for Bijan Robinson. He already had Josh Allen as his other quarterback. Good trade, bad trade.
CJ Stroud and
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon
and he already had Josh Allen. I think it's a fantastic
that's
trade.
Easy.
That's a good trade.
It's a fantastic trade.
I think you got rid of one of the quarterbacks, which what you're trying to do in one of the league. You get Bijan just when Arthur Smith is actually starting to give him more work.
Hell yeah.
I think it was a good deal. The best thing, though, more trade advice, ask us about the trades before you do them rather than after. Because if we don't like them, no way we can't go back and do it.
Hey, that's a great point, King. That's a great point, King. Yeah. I want to, Kyler, who's a big fan, just asked, are we selling or are we riding with Bijan for the rest of the season? I think you're riding with Bijan no matter what. Everything is trending up back into that top 12 running back range. I think no matter what, he also still didn't have, it's not like he was just given the keys to the entire kingdom. He played a lot more than every other running back, and it's starting to trend upward. But it's not like he came out of there and played 75, 80% of the snaps. So the fact that he's doing this on somewhat of limited touches shows me that, there's room to grow for Bijan Robinson. If you are a Bijan Robinson,
he's got the efficiency.
Yeah, if you're a Bijan Robinson owner, you are ecstatic, I think, moving forward. Here's a good one. Justin said on TikTok, and there's some other questions about it. Thoughts on Calvin Ridley? So let's go into this Calvin Ridley stuff, right? Because your boy's right when it comes to Zay Jones, right? The Zay Jones theory. All right. Zay Jones is the key that unlocks the Jags passing attack. In games that Zay Jones has played, Trevor Lawrence has had 15 plus fantasy points in 4 of the 5 games, right? So from week 6 to 10 without Zay Jones, he averaged 13.4 fantasy points. He was the QB 24. Damn. Last 2 weeks, he had 32.2 fantasy points, 25.6. You look into Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's averaging 20.6 fantasy points in games with Zay Jones active, but just 7.5 without. So Zay Jones is obviously healthy right now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley for the rest of the season moving forward?
Good fantasy wide receiver, too.
Oh,
yeah.
That's nice.
Not a number one.
Because two's good.
They spread the ball around there in Jacksonville. But I think it was our Frank Imirante, who's a top ranker on the GameDay.com. You got to check out his fantasy football rankings every week. He was one of the experts that pointed out that whenever Zay Jones is in there, he's the guy that goes downfield and opens up a lot of coverage for everybody else. And that's why Calvin Ridley can click, because defenses really respect Zay Jones.
What are your thoughts on Ridley?
It's scary. I like the trend that you have, right? I like it.
Thank you.
But that one guy is it's the main factor changing everything and making everything all sunshine now. I don't know if that's going to continue week over week on a consistent basis, but I do like Ridley going forward. Wide receiver 2 is nice. I feel safer at like a flex probably, and if I need him at wide receiver 2, then like putting him in there. But I think
He's
you feel
much better than the flex.
Yeah, there's been such bad weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I know that's why he's a 2, not a 1. But flex is like, okay, when I'm thinking flex, I'm thinking like Brandon Cooks.
All right. Well,
Well, I
not
think
an
to your
insult.
point, he'd be closer to wide receiver 3, if anything, right?
More so.
You're saying
I'm
that
thinking
two
wide
wide
receiver-
receiver 3 is like Josh Downs.
No, I'm with
Deontay
you. I
Johnson.
think the way
Yeah,
he's-
but I might be more confident in Downs' floor
12
than,
targets.
than Ridley.
Yeah.
here's what I'd say about Calvin Ridley. I think with Ridley, we knew the talent was there, right? Let's just call it what it was. If you looked at the offense, he was always being targeted down the field, and Ridley's a more complicated type of receiver than just going downfield. He's not just some deep threat. He's not Brandon Cooks when he was in Houston or in LA, obviously. Like, this is a guy who can run routes. So I think a big thing that you have to look at is what we've always said with offenses. When offenses are not necessarily producing and the wide receiver is also not producing, I'm not as concerned because I think things need to click. Now, if the offense is producing and a wide receiver is not producing, then you're slightly concerned, right? Calvin Ridley, over the last 2 weeks and in weeks with Zay Jones, you could tell the offense has looked a lot better.
Mhm.
Trevor Lawrence has seemed to be a better quarterback.
Yep.
So I think naturally you can expect Calvin Ridley to be closer to that high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 with massive upside.
Yeah.
With massive upside. Because still, I think he did 5 for 83 or 5 for 93 in a touchdown in only the second half. I think he had one target all the entire first half, right? So I think things are going to change. Different, game scripts are going to alter. So I think moving forward, to answer the question, I don't think Calvin Ridley is a wide receiver 1. We all agree on that. But I think he's somewhere in that wide receiver 2 range, potential wide receiver 3, right?
Word. Yeah.
I think wide receivers 3 is too low. He's got more upside than that.
Are you trading Calvin Ridley?
Anybody's tradable depending on
price.
what the price is. But if I have Calvin
Didn't think
Ridley
about
as
that
my
one.
2, which I do in one league, I'm not necessarily looking to move him. If you're asking me if he's a sell high, no.
Yeah, I don't think he's a sell high because also I'm intrigued by what he's been able to do with Zay Jones in the lineup. Lucas on TikTok said Nico Collins and James. I don't know if that's James Cook or James Conner for
James
Amon
Harden.
Ra. It could be James Harden. For the sake of this, Nico Collins and my guess is James Cook for Amon Ra.
Nico Collins and James Cook for Amon Ra. If you offered me that, here's the thing with trades too. If you offer me, put yourself on the other side. I'm not taking Nico Collins and James Cook for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. Cook, maybe top 3. Cook is
Hotter.
Cook is a decent flex,
Cook.
and Collins is a pretty good high-end fantasy wide receiver 3, maybe the low-end fantasy wide receiver 2. You're doing kind of on the border of quantity for quality. If you offered that to me, I wouldn't take it.
I agree with that. Well, but now you got me thinking though, because you mentioned Nico Collins, right? Low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. You would rather have Calvin Ridley than Nico Collins?
That's
Probably,
a good one.
yeah.
That's a good question, bro.
But it's close. It makes you think.
Yeah, it's close.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Collins, but with Zay Jones back, I feel more confident in Calvin Ridley's floor going forward than I do with Nico
That's
Collins.
very fair. Yeah.
Well, then that brings me to my next question about the Texans wide receivers. Obviously, the Texans wide receivers, Tank Dell has been wide receiver 12 since week 5. Now, granted, the usage hasn't been a wide receiver 1, but if you just look at pure performance, that's a wide receiver 1, a top 12 wide receiver. Moving forward, are you confident is Tank Dell and Nico Collins a must start every single week?
I
think Tank is, personally.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
Yeah. I think
Tank's had a few weeks where he hasn't hit, but he's gotten better in terms of consistency.
He's a
So
rookie.
I think there's no reason why you can't start him. And if Collins has had a few disappointing weeks, but you probably don't have many better options in your lineup.
That's the thing, right? It depends on the options that you have. So if you're just the greatest fantasy manager of all time, like me, you have better options than Nico.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
But you probably are going to be able to at least put him in your flex if you're in a 2 wide receiver league. So yeah, you're probably starting them both.
Greatest fantasy manager of all time, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. That's my boy. Brian,
just for context, Scott. I mean, look,
he is a
I'm
good
out
fantasy
here
manager.
with CD Lamb, Devontae Smith, Mike Evans, like
in Dynasty.
in Dynasty. So it's like I got better guys.
Talk about
than
your tight
Nico
ends.
right
Who
now.
are your tight ends too?
Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid,
Dallas
fucking
Goddard.
Dallas
What are you
Goddard,
playing,
Evan
like
Ingram.
a
Dalton
14
Schultz.
league or something
Dude,
like
it's a
that?
12 team. It's insane.
He's
I
a
cooked.
dog.
I
He's a
cooked.
dog.
I
He
cooked.
cooked. Brian said, "Woo!
It's a dog.
Give me another bark. That's more like a puppy, but we'll take it. Give me like a yeah. Give me like a
No,
a
that
pit
was his
bull.
bark, bro.
No, but that was a growl. That was a.
More like a Pomeranian type of.
Do you have a Pomeranian?
No, that was kind of like.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Brian said just traded DeAndre Hopkins and Nico Collins for Alvin Kamara.
Can you
Thoughts?
say that faster? I didn't get it.
Just traded DeAndre Hopkins and Nico Collins for Alvin Kamara.
Hopkins
DeAndre Hopkins and
Nico
Nico Collins for
Collins.
Alvin Kamara.
I mean,
I'm not in on Hopkins, so that's a pretty good deal.
yeah, if you have other receivers that are doing a job, then
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
That's almost like Nico Collins for Alvin Kamara. So I like it. A good job there.
Here's a good one.
Second best fantasy manager of all time.
Yeah. There you go.
Someone said Stephon Diggs and Travis Etienne for Adam Thielen and Alvin Kamara. I
No,
personally would prefer
if
Diggs
I
and
had
Etienne.
Diggs in,
I would prefer that too.
I would not. If I had Diggs, there's no way I would want to do that.
Here's another good one.
Even Etienne, he's
been
Diggs
bad.
and Etienne, and I get back.
for the season though.
I get back
been bad.
Thielen, who's had some good games.
Here's a
but
good one.
still, no
Toast
way.
said, "Is Zay Flowers a buy low in fantasy right now?"
Not,
Well, he just
not
had
if
his
they
best-
just scored 2
he
touchdowns.
just had his
no.
best game of the year.
Yeah, but I think he
Points-wise.
had yes because of the touchdowns, but he had way more targets. Like he
Yeah.
could have showed a lot more.
Yeah, but still, you know,
Are you
you're
buying
You're
Zay?
breaking
Would
it down.
Would you
You're
want to
breaking
buy
it down,
Zay?
but 2 touchdowns that makes him a sell high more than a buy low.
I agree with that. I to answer the question, Toast, I wouldn't mind buying Zay depending on the price, just because without Mark Andrews there, he's going to be targeted a lot more. They
Yeah.
need a dynamic weapon. Odell's not going to be it. Rashad Bateman's not going to be it. Zay is the
Odell's
guy
been
that they
playing
draft-
a lot
He's
better.
been playing a lot better, but Zay's the guy they want Zay to be the guy. They drafted him, right? My backup
Yeah.
point guard, of course. Shameless plug.
I would sell him. I would sell the fuck
I think
out of
I
him.
would sell too. I don't mind him, but I think
I would too, because that might have been the best game of his season.
Yeah, just scoring the 2 touchdowns, like that's huge for him. We've seen him all year. Like
And
all-
other people will just look at that. You know,
that's all they
and
look
they'll-
at. And
Yeah.
like, look, he's been a feature guy all year. Like they outside of Mark Andrews,
Yeah,
obviously.
but up until last week, no games with 80 yards and
But-
1 touchdown.
but that's where I was getting at. They
Yeah.
pepper him with targets, but he's not converting that into lots of yards.
yeah.
He's not turning that into big fantasy performances. So
Mm.
just because Mark Andrews is out, he's gonna get more targets. Now it's I don't think it's gonna translate to more yards. It hasn't all year.
I've seen some
Until
questions.
last week, he was Sky Moore with a little bit of upside.
Yeah.
Does Sky Moore do anything except catch screen passes? They
I don't
might
know,
call him
man.
Screen Moore.
I mean, look, if you're a receiver wearing the number 24, you got issues.
It's a good point. They don't think about that advanced analytics.
Yep.
I saw a few questions about Jaden Reed in fantasy. Let's go into Green Bay because I think Green Bay's offense has been getting hot. Jordan Love was currently the QB5 this week. And since week 10, he's had 7 touchdowns to 2 INTs, 62.5% completion percentage, QB6 since week 9.
Wow.
So what are we making of Jordan Love moving forward? Is he someone you'd start off the wire?
Not this week against Kansas City, but you know the schedule gets a little bit easier after that. You know there are some spots. If you lost Joe Burrow, he's somebody you can stream. I think
Facts.
he's playing better.
Yeah, he's a streamer.
What about, let's talk Christian Watson. Christian Watson, wide receiver 13 this week. He scored a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. He had a season-high 5 receptions and season-high 94 receiving yards. I think he's more of a boomer bust type of guy, but what are your thoughts on Christian Watson?
He's just got to stay healthy. And if he
Yeah.
does, he's going to keep getting in the end zone. It's like Romeo Dobbs is getting shoved out. And right now it's Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. But the problem with Jaden Reed is he's touchdown dependent.
Yes.
He scored from scrimmage in his last 3 games, but the yardage numbers haven't been great.
Right. The thing with Christian Watson, we saw it last year. Like when he turned it on, he turned it on.
Mm.
And so I think it's a lot due to health, like Scott said. So if he's healthy, then yeah, you like what you got.
I think naturally, like, I
he's
want to
that
see
guy, man.
I want to see one more week from Christian Watson, but going back to the Calvin Ridley argument, the offense is playing better. Christian Watson and Jaden Reed are the biggest benefactors of that offense playing well. So I think you're going to see a lot more of them two moving forward than Romeo Dobbs.
Let's see what they do against Kansas City this week.
So you got to look at
That'll be
ability.
very telling.
You got to look at ability. Christian Watson is so gifted.
Mhm.
There's a reason he popped off at the end of last year. Obviously, he had Aaron Rodgers, but
He also had like 9 touchdowns over 7 weeks or some crazy
yeah, he scored
number.
3 against Dallas last year, I
Yeah.
think. But he's extremely talented. And when you just look at a guy's build like that, it's just a matter of putting it all together. He's done it before. We've seen him produce.
Mm.
And so when he's healthy, like I think you can rely on that.
You look at Jaden Reed, he's exemplary in a lot of rookie rookies. This is the point of the season where, rookies take time and they start to come on. It's like I've been on Jalen Hyatt since the summer.
And he's the first time he came on.
Summer. And,
That's
that
facts. You were
guy's
super
scouting comparisons to, for those who've been watching the NFL for a long time, to Deshaun Jackson. And DeVito is actually playing decent. Jalen Hyatt might be able to help you out for the final few weeks.
I will get
tremendous separation gear and downfield abilities.
No, credit because he did.
He said it in week 3.
He did. He talked about Jalen Hyatt early.
We said we came into week 1 and week 2. We said, okay, Puka Nacua was a guy we called, yada, yada. Who is someone moving forward that you are looking to add? And we were like 12 weeks ahead of the curve.
Nah, this dude Scott is actually built so different. Actually, I'm the second greatest fantasy manager of all time because Scott's won. But actually,
I'm the greatest fantasy manager. I'm a very good advisor.
That's why I'm so good. It's because I always come to Scott. But Scott, on that same note, talking about rookie receivers and them taking a while to come on, let's talk about JSN.
Wait, before we do it, can we finish the Jaden Reed one? Because someone asked about Jaden Reed.
Yes.
Jaden Reed scored a touchdown in 3 straight, at least 4 receptions, 50 scrimmage yards, wide receiver 11 since week 10. Jaden Reed, what are you doing with Jaden Reed right now? He's someone that definitely should not be on the waiver wire. We agree on that? Yes?
Right. Yeah. When you look at I do my waiver wire article every week on thegameday.com. It's up right now. Go to NFL, go to Fantasy Tips, go to waiver wire, or you can go to our fantasy page. Jaden Reed's like my number 1 wide receiver to pick up right now.
If you do get Jaden Reed, let me ask you this question. Do you feel comfortable starting him moving forward? Obviously, it depends who else you have.
He's a streamer. Kansas City scares me.
Yeah.
There were some guys, a few times. And here's another lesson. Like, I actually got questions last week. Should I bench Tyreek Hill facing the Jets? Should I bench Keenan Allen facing Baltimore?
Never.
When you're talking about superstars, you never bench your superstars because they become superstars because they can overcome these really tough matchups. And the defense doesn't always win the matchup.
Oh, sir.
When you look at like a guy like Jaden Reed and then it's a tough matchup, then you want to bench him.
Agreed.
I don't mind.
The definition of a superstar.
I don't mind if you need to play him personally because I do. Kansas City's defense has been incredible, but Jaden Reed, what he's shown us is that he can be super dynamic in multiple ways, whether it's a rushing touchdown or receiving touchdown. So obviously there are probably better options out there, but Jaden Reed is
there though, and you're counting on him to get.
You're touchdown dependent. I agree, but so is Christian Watson, in my opinion, because this week was the only game that he had.
I don't like
receiving
the matchup for them this week. The over under that game is 42.5. So I don't think it's going to be high scoring either.
You got a JSN question?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think as a Seahawks fan,
and
talking about rookie receivers taking a while to come on,
and a guy who has over 1,000 pieces of Seahawks merch.
That's facts. Didn't even consider that.
Advanced analytics.
JSN, I've been seeing some bad statistics. I think his average depth of target is like all-time low for a first round, for like anybody drafted in the first 3 rounds, whatever. Like a bunch of statistics saying that like this guy's a bust, right? Now I don't know if you can
anybody just watched him, especially saw that catch last week.
The catch was nice.
Calling him a bust.
Okay. So but that's why I'm asking. Because that's why he's asking. That's why I'm asking you because I am a manager. I am a manager of he thinks I'm trying to shit on the Seahawks. No, I am a manager of JSN Dynasty. I like JSN. I drafted him 6th overall my rookie draft. Okay. I like JSN. I like him long term, but I have been seeing this in the Dynasty community. Okay. Now in redraft, like obviously, like he is what he is. You might stream him if you have to. But I just want to hear your thoughts on JSN.
Buy low if you can in Dynasty. I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do at quarterback. I don't know if Geno's going to be the quarterback next year or not, but JSN, his rookie year, you're asking me long term. Okay?
Sure.
He's not Jalen Tolbert. It's
taking shots. He's taking small shots at the Cowboys right now.
He's looking. He's playing behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. When you can learn from those guys, it's like a chain. Veterans always learn from. They take younger guys under their wing. Doug Baldwin, who is very great and underrated.
Facts.
He took Tyler Lockett under his wing.
He did.
Tyler Lockett took DK Metcalf under his wing. He's taken JSN under his wing. When JSN, the talent is there, and he's learning from a guy like Tyler Lockett and also DK Metcalf, and he's playing in that environment. He's a buy low in Dynasty.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, was this a Dynasty question or was this for rest of season? Because I think
both. So Dynasty, that's good to hear.
Dynasty is buy low. Rest of season, He's a streamer.
He's a
depending
streamer.
on who the match.
But
is.
are you happy with streaming him on a?
Would you
Brandon-
rather stream Jaden Reed or JSN?
Jaden Reed?
right now.
Yeah.
He's getting in the end zone.
Yeah.
I think JSN.
I think JSN's playing pretty well, but it's not translating fantasy.
Well, also he's playing. There's 2 other wide receivers there. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
draft JSN to come in and be the guy. Now they just Tyler Lockett's
I think
on his
what a
way
lot of
out.
people
He's
did
older.
Is to remember this next summer. People overreact to training camp clips, especially from rookies and young players, and saying, this guy's going to be fantastic. Look what he's doing in training camp, and then very often doesn't pan out when the regular season starts. We were
Jamar
watching.
Chase.
We were watching James Cook. People like he's going to be a feature back. Look how great he's
Well,
looking
now
in
he
training
is
camp.
with Joe Brady.
He's not really a feature back. He's
Joe
got
Brady?
what has
Yeah.
he got? 3 touchdowns
Yeah.
total.
Yeah, but he's looked better. With
I
Joe
mean, you
Brady.
remember Jamar Chase in the preseason?
Dropping everything. Dropped.
Dude, that was when I had my startup draft in my dynasty league. But he was falling round after round after round. Imagine having drafted Jamar Chase in like the 10th round, or whatever. it was.
I think just to answer the JSN from the perspective of a non-Seahawks fan, naturally, you would want to have him in Dynasty because I think they drafted him knowing that Tyler Lockett is on his way out eventually. Obviously, this is not a slander Tyler Lockett moment. This is a very much appreciative moment of Tyler Lockett. But I think naturally JSN is like the younger guy. They're coming in. There's 3 wide receivers there. So I think you got to be patient with JSN in Dynasty.
Doesn't he have a drop issue too? I think.
JSN?
Or no, yeah. Doesn't he have a little no drop issue this year?
No. And as far as being by the receiver, my allegiance never has ever factored into my fantasy.
Fucking go, Scott.
Never.
You're a dog. Hall of Famer. Pomeranian. Alex said, who are the best buy lows? I wanted to get to this question. I think a lot of people, obviously on the screen, we have submit your trade questions. As a reminder, this is the Week 12 Fantasy Recaps episode. However, a lot of trade deadlines are coming tomorrow. On the ESPN Standard one, it's November 29th. I know some people have moved it to Thursday. Obviously, Thursdays, we do our buy lows and sell highs. So we're trying to answer some fantasy questions, trying to help you make the right decisions ahead of the deadline, making a playoff push. We're here with Scotty the King, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, next to Matthew Berry. Definitely look him up on Twitter. Definitely look him up on thegameday.com if you want any other advice and articles to read. But Scott, who are some of your favorite buy lows right now ahead of the deadline?
Before I say that, though, I just throw names out there. Sometimes it might not be the right fit to just go after.
That's a good point.
Guy.
That's a good point.
But,
Fit's important.
I think it's a good time to buy on Lamar Jackson. The passing stats are down a little bit, but the rushing is always going to be there. I think maybe you take a crack on Austin Eckler. I know the numbers aren't been there. People like, is he washed?
Well, because people saw that video of him running slowly against the Packers. I think that's a big one too.
I think he bounces back. It's kind of like a Tony Pollard thing. Like you know he's better. So
agreed.
If I have to take a shot, if I want to take a shot to get in the playoffs and maybe get a guy that could be a number 1 running back for the rest of the way, I might take that crack on Austin.
Let me ask you a quick question because this is a shame. I'm being very selfish here. I have Tyreek and I need a running back and potential wide receiver. Would you trade Tyreek for Eckler and a Tank Dell?
No. Your team right now, you have Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Dell. Who is that?
Tyreek Dell's crazy. He's
Tyreek
a
Dell,
dog.
like Tank Dell and Tyreek Dell had a kid, right? If you have Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, I'm not breaking that up.
But I also
If
don't
you
have running
break
backs.
that up,
Just saying.
if you break that up, we're going to have a problem. You came to me this morning, you showed me your team, and you said, I want to get rid of one of my quarterbacks because I have Mahomes and Murray. I want to fix my running backs. But you also have Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs.
And who are my running backs? Who are my running backs?
You do not break that up. If you have that, you do not break that
But what
up.
if his running backs are garbage?
My running backs are Javonte Williams right now, Aaron Jones, Devon Achane.
He has Tank Dell. He has Calvin Ridley. Trade those
I don't
guys
have Tank Dell. I have Ridley, but who say? All right. So who are some,
that up.
who are some of your other buy
I'm very
lows?
unhappy with you if you break that up.
I appreciate you caring for me. Who are some of your other buy lows?
Some other buy lows. Let's say
You said Lamar. You said Eckler. What about ETN? ETN's been bad.
ETN, I think he's going to continue to get in the end zone. So I think
I agree.
That's a good buy low. I think there's some people who might actually be down on what Kelsey has done.
Totally agree.
So, swinging, and it's all about how you sell it. You're like,
Well, I think
Kelsey's getting old.
I think this is a good time to bring in a game that I wanted to play, a very quick
Let's
game.
do it, dude.
As you mentioned, a player. So I want you to guess the top 12 tight ends in fantasy PPR since week 8. Okay. Since week 8. Can you guess the top 12 tight ends in fantasy before we jump into more trade questions? Trey McBride. Tight end 2.
Love it. Dalton Kincaid.
Tight end 4.
Dalton Schultz.
Tight end 9.
Jake Ferguson.
Ooh, we're ripping Tight end 7.
David Njoku.
David Njoku. Look at bro. You came back with vengeance. Tight end 6. We're flowing.
That's where I'm.
No, you got this, Felipe. Come
Travis
on.
Kelce.
Travis Kelce, tight end 12 since week 8.
Pat Fryermuth.
Wait, so you just
He
mentioned
did ball
buying.
out.
You mentioned buying Travis Kelce. Show them this video. Travis Kelce, tight end 12 since week 8. You don't want him. I'll take him, right? Pat Fryermuth, definitely not there.
I thought the 1 week just might put him.
Nope. The person, Travis Kelce has the least amount of points since week 8, and it's 46.7.
Oh, TJ Hawkinson.
TJ Hawkinson is tight end 1 since week 8,
Damn.
90.6. So right now you need 5.
Laporta.
Sam Laporta, tight end 10, 52.2 fantasy points, PPR. Come on.
Jack Stoll's not going to be on there.
Who?
He's, when Goddard went down, some people. Pick up
What
Jack
the
Stoll.
fuck? No.
Hell no.
One you should get. Here we go. Come on.
Logan Thomas.
Not there. Played in the game last night. Easy one.
George Kittle.
George Kittle is there. Tight end 3, 72.3 fantasy points since week 8. Come on.
Cole
Kmet, tight end 5, 67.3 fantasy points. I believe you only need one more.
Yeah.
So I think you got it in Njoku. Yes, you got Jake Ferguson. No, you need 2 more. 2 more. Here we go. You need tight end 8 and tight end 11. Here we go.
It's not Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett is definitely not there. Here we go.
Not there.
Top 12 tight ends since week 8. Let's see. Some of these people in these comments probably have these tight ends.
What's his name on the Bengals? No.
Not there. No.
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram is not
I
there.
didn't think
Nope.
so.
Evan Ingram has not been good this year. Not been
No,
good
he
this year.
hasn't.
Come on. I can start giving some hints if we need, or we think we could rip this.
Hold on, no.
Here we go. He's cycling through
don't
the
give me any
teams.
hints. No.
Cycling through the teams.
Mo
Here we
Ali
go.
Cox.
Mo Ali Cox is not there.
Oh my God.
Definitely
Kyler Granson. Like
not there. Not there. Totally not there. Come on. Here we go.
You should give a hit.
You want a hint?
I don't want to hit.
I'll give Felipe the hint while you're looking
wait,
left.
I got one.
He's
Wait,
got one.
Tyler Conklin.
Not there. You were so confident.
I was.
You keep looking left, trying to look into the distance. I'll give you one. He's a Swiss. Taysom Hill. There we go. Tight end 8, 55.5 fantasy
I wasn't
points since
thinking
week 8.
Taysom Hill. He
Well,
does
you should have.
qualify
All right.
A lot of platforms.
We need one more tight end. He is tight end 11 since week 8.
Did we say
PPR.
Dalton Kincaid?
We did say Dalton Kincaid. He is tight end 4. Trey McBride, tight end 2. Obviously, Trey McBride.
Love
podcast.
McBride. That's my dog.
Come on. I'll throw out a hint. Another hint, okay? Dallas Clark replica. See if that one gave it.
He plays with no gloves. Who plays with no gloves, Scott?
Luke Musgrave.
Hey, but good luck. I think he's going through something with his kidneys or something. Hope he's okay.
I can't even.
That was one of my fantasy ride or dies. Come on. No gloves. Tape on the hands.
Cade Otton.
Cade Otton, tight end 11, 52.1 fantasy points.
There you go.
Way to be, King. Those are the top
Got his
12
name.
tight ends in fantasy PPR since week 8. Travis Kelce, tight end 12.
That's
Has not been
insane.
good.
He's gonna climb up though.
Totally. Great spot to buy
McBride
low.
will stay. McBride will stay in the top
Totally.
top 3.
Hawkinson's been fantastic.
He's been fantastic, but I think if you look at this is a really great spot to be able to buy Travis Kelce. That's really
Agreed.
the main point
Agreed.
here, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
Any other fantasy trade questions? Let's see if we got anything else. I'm curious.
Love
We had a lot of
questions.
people talking Kincaid. Yeah, what do you make of Dalton Kincaid rest of season? He obviously had a down game, still had 5 receptions. What do you make of Dalton Kincaid rest of season?
No fantasy player is going to go off every week, especially the tight end. He's essentially the number 2 pass catcher. I'm not worried about Dalton Kincaid.
I'm not either. We've seen enough from him. And like you said, I mean, since what, week 9? That list was since week 9?
8.
Since week 8, tight end 4.
Mm.
Not worried.
I want to go into I want to talk about the Baltimore backfield a little bit while we still have questions rolling in. Obviously, the whole year it's kind of been Gus Edwards. He's been so touchdown dependent, but he's been a guy that scored so many touchdowns.
Yeah.
Justice Hill early on. Keaton Mitchell, undrafted. This past week, Keaton Mitchell led the backfield in snaps with 33. Justice Hill had 20. Gus Edwards had 19. Mitchell had 89 scrimmage yards on 9 attempts and only 2 receptions. Is Keaton Mitchell the running back that you want in Baltimore?
Definitely. Like with Gus Edwards, he was getting all those touchdowns, and in this last game, they're putting Justice Hill in the goal line. He's not even getting all the goal line touches. Keaton Mitchell can score from anywhere on the field anytime he touches the ball.
He's a home run threat.
He's a big, major home run threat. And that offensive line on Pro Football Focus, like their most recent offensive line rankings, they had Baltimore numbers 2 and best in the AFC. That is an explosive kid behind a great offensive line. I am locking them into my flex every week after they come back from the bye.
Dude, that's the confidence I live for.
Crazy.
That delivery was insane.
I needed to add a defense, and I dropped him this week, knowing that I was hoping that he wouldn't go that off. And now you're in a position to go that off.
Hoping that you wouldn't go that off.
Yeah, because I knew because they have a bye,
He
right?
went that off.
This is the miniature Devin Achan.
I like that.
Yeah.
We made that comparison.
You made it. You made it.
Did.
Credit to you.
Yeah,
don't say me because you said it.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate
Of course.
it. I think when you look at, here's what I would say about Keaton Mitchell. Go to your waiver wire, especially if you're a team that's like going to be in the playoffs no matter what. He's in the because they have a bye this week. So people are not, let's keep in mind the way people run with waiver wires.
If he's on the free agent list in your league, then
I think
he's something bad about your league.
No, I think he's going to be available because I don't think people have, because only if you look at the numbers, like he obviously had those 2 good weeks.
If you have 2 good fantasy players in your league, then Keaton Mitchell is not in the free agent.
Well, considering I had Keaton Mitchell and I dropped him, and I consider myself the reason that I dropped him because I needed a defense and a must-win week. Don't listen to him, all right? Your league's pretty damn good. Keaton Mitchell, if you need to pick someone up off the waiver wire, go scroll down to where it says buy, go all the way down. People are going to forget because they're not seeing him, see his projected points. Go add Keaton Mitchell for your fantasy championship run. I think Keaton Mitchell, as you just said, is someone that could win you your league.
Will not be available in 4 or 5 leagues.
All right, negative Nancy, bro.
No, I'm just realistic run.
Negative Nancy. Sexy Scott.
Sexy Scott.
Realistic run.
Here's a good question before we begin signing off, as I want to take a few more. What do you make of Jamar Chase? Are you bumping him down? Is he still low? Is he a low end wide receiver 1? Will he stay a wide receiver 1?
Low end wide receiver 1. You know, as Browning gets more comfortable, that's the guy. He was targeting him a ton. You know, he's still going to get his points.
He does what he does with his targets, right? Like talk about efficiency. I mean, he's a game breaker. Jamar Chase is a game breaker. Obviously, you would love. It's way different than having him with Joe Burrow, but you're still starting him every single week. I think low end wide receiver 1 makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes here's my thought with Jamar, though, because I think the name is also what's keeping you in it, but they just look so fucking bad, and you don't have T. Higgins there.
Still got the points.
No, I agree with you, and I think he's still Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins is not there. So I am still expecting him to have a potential blow-up week, but if T comes back, I just don't. I think he's going to be a low-end wide receiver 1, and I think no matter what, you're not trading him. You're probably not going to be able to trade for him because he's still been performing. My trust in Jamar Chase being Jamar Chase for where you drafted him is definitely a bit worrisome.
That's why I think you can't trade for him.
You think you could trade for Jamar Chase right now?
Yeah, because people are worried about him.
Agreed.
Fair enough.
I think he's a buy low.
We'll go through one more trade question before we begin signing off. This guy, Ashton, said he's stuck. Sorry, you're stuck. I sent a trade Justin Jefferson, D-Hop, and Aaron Jones for A.J. Brown. Jettis, D-Hop, and Aaron Jones for A.J. Brown. Which side do you prefer?
The first.
I would rather keep Justin Jefferson, who's coming back in 2 weeks.
Who could be like A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Wait the 2 weeks for him to come back. I think you're going to regret doing that trade.
Totally. I totally agree.
Although Aaron Jones has been hurt,
you
know, I mean, it's almost like, okay, you got to put context behind it. Can you wait 2 weeks? Do you have to make the playoffs? On straight value, I don't like it because once Brown comes back, Jefferson comes back, you're going to be like, man, I give it to two other players too. But like, if you're 6-6 right now and you have to make the playoffs, you want Brown now.
Facts.
Totally. I agree with that. Well, hey, this was fun. I think we answered a lot of trade questions. If you're new here, if you're from the For You page, this is the Caps Off podcast. If you like fantasy episodes, we release our episodes, our audio on YouTube everywhere, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also have our cafeteria episode where we do a lot of power rankings and games that will come out tomorrow. Friday is our predictions episode where we're predicting the entire slate. If you want to bet on any of the action, make sure to go to thegameday.com/promotions or the link in our bio. We got some amazing offers if you're coming from TikTok or Instagram. Yep. And then also on Sunday, we do a watch along. I think we're going to do a watch along for the Eagles 49ers game, which is a big one. I don't think we'll do the 1 o'clock slate. It's a possibility. And
for the pregame, I'll be on with you guys before.
And the King will come.
Fantasy questions.
Yes, the King will definitely be there. And then also, if you're just tuning in, This was Scotty the King, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer. Scotty, thanks for coming back on, bro.
Thank you for having me. Always
Of
appreciate it.
course. You got to get us one of those hats, though. That's like the prerequisite.
No,
to
we gotta
coming
get-
on.
You got to give me $35 then.
I'll give you $34.99
Yeah.
and a spit handshake or something.
All right.
Oh,
I'll take that.
all right.
Deal.
Well, that was fun. Thank you, obviously, all for all the questions. If you have any more questions, make sure to go follow us, DM us on TikTok, or you can go follow any one of us on Twitter, the
Yep.
Felipe Fontes, Scotty the King, TGD Tabs, I think my Twitter name is. So tweet any one of us fantasy questions. We'll be sure to answer them.
Yep.
And as we sign off on every fantasy episode, we do it with one specific way. Felipe, what's your words of wisdom for this Tuesday?
Follow Scotty the King on Twitter.
Follow Scotty the King on Twitter. And what's your Twitter again, Scotty? How do you spell it?
Scott E. the King.
Scott
and,
E.
And just remember, who's got your back? I
got your back.
Who's got your back?
I got your back. We'll
Got
see
that
you
sway. I got that
tomorrow
sway.
for our cafeteria
Sway.
episode.
Sway. LOB.
Sway.
LOB.